83-year-old President Alassane Ouattara has confirmed that he wants a fourth term as Ivory Coast's president. The incumbent Ouattara has been in power since 2010. He is in good company, as Africa is a retirement home for the world's oldest group of leaders. Teodoro Obiang Mbasogo, 83, has been the uncontested dominant force in Equatorial Guinea since 1982. Equatorial Guinea's authoritarian president is the world's longest, consecutively serving, current non-royal national leader. Second on this infamous list is 92-year-old Paul Biya, the president of Cameroon. President Biya has been in office since 1992. He is going to the country again this autumn, seeking a new 7-year mandate. Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni, 81, has declared that he too will stand in his country's general election next year, hoping to extend his 39 years in power. Each of these candidates are expected to win their respective races, given the political disarray amongst opponents, and legal obstacles facing opposition politicians. Ouattara is also the frontrunner in the Ivory Coast's October election, as potential challengers, including former President Laurent Gbagbo, have been barred from standing. In his official announcement, President Ouattara, 83, dismissed lingering health concerns about his candidature. Instead, the president admitted that he would be standing in October's election to preserve national stability amid ongoing security and economic challenges. But does President Ouattara's pledge bear close scrutiny? Ouattara's supporters point to his 15-year economic stewardship of the Ivory Coast, and his strong relationship with France and other Western partners. In a recent report published by the International Monetary Fund, Ivory Coast's finance minister reinforced the president's election message and set out the country's economic priorities. When Ouattara took power, half of the population was classed as impoverished. The government aims to bring down poverty to below 20% and maintain annual GDP growth. But how will this target be achieved, when Africa as a whole is a byword for economic mismanagement? Again, President Ouattara's national and international cheerleaders point to the country's positive reputation among foreign analysts. The Ivorian economy is considered one of the strongest of the economic community of West African states, and is a favored destination for foreign investors in the region. According to the 2024 World Investment Report, the Ivory Coast attracted $1.75 billion in foreign direct investment in 2022, an increase of nearly 10% year-on-year. Economic data also reveals that Turkey, China and France, which imports goods worth €432 million from Ivory Coast, are key investors in the country, with their money going into extractive industries and finance. According to estimates, Ivory Coast's economy has grown annually by more than 6% for 4 successive years. Almost 1/3 of the world's cocoa supply is sourced in Ivory Coast. Cocoa production is a major employer and the dominant income stream, in a country with a population numbering some 32 million people. Demand for cocoa is skyrocketing, but so is smuggling, as farmers complain that the prices they receive do not reflect the global cocoa boom. The Financial Times reports that cocoa smuggling reduces the government's revenues and further destabilizes domestic prices. Severe climate degradation, including rising temperatures and rainfall variation, is also affecting cocoa growing areas. In addition, a forthcoming EU deforestation regulation may weaken the revenues of small Ivorian cocoa farmers due to high compliance costs. Despite the country's blossoming economic growth rate, Ivory Coast's public debt is rising sharply, according to researchers. The government's tax take is comparatively low, whilst debt servicing consumes 15% of revenue. Analysts are also worried by the country's persistent underinvestment in transport and its inadequate energy infrastructure. These economic weaknesses are heightened by high levels of corruption across public procurement, customs, judiciary, and land administration. Ivory Coast's economic progress may also be vulnerable to wider security and political developments in West Africa. The minutes of President Ouattara's recent July meeting with France's President Emmanuel Macron have yet to be published, but surely, their conversation focused on the new regimes in Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger, and Russia's growing influence in the Sahel region. Armed groups linked to Al-Qaeda and ISIS, which operate in Mali and Burkina Faso, are said to have infiltrated northern Ivory Coast. The country has already suffered greatly from civil strife, and simmering ethnic grievances, underdevelopment, and discontent in northern areas, are now aiding extremist recruitment. The Ivory Coast's internal security is also threatened by the country's emergence as an important drug trafficking transshipment point. Since the mid-2000s, rising demand for illegal narcotics in Europe, and a crackdown in the Americas, has shifted cocaine flows toward West Africa. It is estimated that between 25 and 50% of global oceanic cocaine destined for Europe moves through West Africa. According to Western experts, Ivory Coast is among the top transit countries, alongside Ghana, Benin, and Nigeria. Instability in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Guinea has eroded border security and made overland transit easier. The Ivory Coast's geographic position, its ports, weak border controls, law enforcement corruption, and the relative poverty of its people have made the country a favored staging point for drugs shipments to Europe, via maritime or air routes. This has increased fears that, with drugs trafficking profits now rivaling annual GDP, Ivory Coast is in danger of becoming a narco state, with international drug trafficking networks integrated ever more deeply into the country's political, military, and economic structures. Is President Alassane Ouattara the right man to turn this situation around?